Welcome to Do It Yourself with Wayne. Do you have firewood that you need to split? Well, I do, and I bought this Dirty Hand Tools 22-ton log splitter about 2 years ago for some firewood I needed to split. I didn't really want to purchase a log splitter, but I needed one for at least 3 or 4 days, and renting one was going to cost me as much as purchasing one. One thing I've learned over the last couple of years of owning this log splitter is I can sell it right now on Craigslist for about what it cost me. So I really haven't used or haven't lost any money on it. I just have my money invested in a tool that I can get my money out of. So that's one of the good things about purchasing your own if you're going to use it. Okay, so now we're going to go over some of the features and options of this log splitter. To begin with, you can split wood. That right there is about 25 inches. So the logs that you're going to split need to be 25 inches or less. You could finagle something a little longer than that, but I wouldn't recommend it. But you know, most any fireplace, wood stove, you're going to want wood shorter than that anyway. As far as the diameter of the log, there is a spec for that comes with this machine. I don't remember what it is right offhand, but I can tell you I have split stuff much larger than that. I split some oak a year or two ago. Some of the pieces are literally this big around. They were so big that I had to stand this thing up on its end, and I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Because I couldn't pick the wood up, I could just barely scoot it around on the ground. But you don't split something like that down the middle. You split the edges off. And you keep taking edges off until you get it small enough that you can deal with it. But it gives you the ability to split even larger pieces of wood than what this thing says it's rated for. So that's a good feature. The handle's over here. You pull it back to make the cylinder come back. You push it forward to make the cylinder go forward. And it's spring-loaded to the middle for forward, but not for back. If you're splitting a piece of wood, you push the lever forward. The cylinder goes out, but if you let go, it stops. Now, that's a safety feature. If that thing's going out and you start cutting into something you don't want to cut, like your finger, you let go of this thing, it stops. Now, in the reverse action, you pull the lever back, it locks there. And that cylinder will keep coming back until it gets all the way to the home position, and then it will trip itself off and turn off as far as the motion of the cylinder. So that's the way it functions. Like I said, this thing will tilt up. You can have it like this. There's also an optional bracket you can get over here to catch wood that's being split. I don't have that. I didn't really feel like I needed it, but it is an option you can get. This thing will also tilt up. If you pull this out, you can tilt it up like that. And you can do the vertical split. That's how I cut those or split those really large pieces of oak. Like I said, I couldn't pick them up, but I could tilt this up like this. I could scoot them around until I got them on the base, and then I'd run the ram down, like I said, on the edges and split pieces off. I did that to split those big pieces. But it's another nice feature of this thing. It will do that. Most new ones will tilt up like this, but not all. So if you're looking for a log splitter, make sure it'll do this, because sometimes that is very desirable when you're splitting wood. Sometimes I've been down on the ground on my hands and knees dealing with large pieces of wood, and you just roll them up to it, cut them, split them, and you don't have to pick them up. It's just a nice feature. A lot of times I do use it like this, and this is what I'll be doing today when I start showing you operation. I'll be taking this wood off the back of my truck, setting it here and splitting it, piling it right here in front of you. Now in a future video, I'm going to be building racks. Yeah, we live close to a little small airport, so we got airplanes flying over occasionally. But I'll be building racks that I can move with my John Deere subcompact tractor that we can move around, and I don't have to manually move this stuff from place to place. But in a future video, so stay tuned for that, we'll be showing how to build those racks and how to use them. As far as using this thing, also the instructions are in this little thing here. That unscrews the cap, the instructions are in there. I'm not going to take that out because I can't show you the instructions on this video anyway, because you'll never be able to read it. Got a nice little Kohler engine. And I'm going to attempt to start this thing today. It hasn't been started this year. Last time it was run was last fall. So we'll see how well it starts. First thing we got to do is check the oil. I've already done that. The oil's good. Got to put gas in it. Because last year I ran it till I ran it out of gas. Now one thing that manufacturers have to do, they have to put these stupid little filter things in here. In your gas tank. I hate these things because it makes it hard to see how much gas you got. But that's what they have to do. So that's in there. And if you get one of these things, make sure you use the non-ethanol fuel. Don't use the regular gas like you use in your car, because the ethanol is really bad for the carburetors in these things. So I'm going to go ahead and add some fuel to this thing. I'm not going to necessarily fill it up, but I'm going to add some to it. And like I said, this thing hasn't been run since last year. Okay, that's not full, but it's enough for our demonstration here. Set that off to the side. Don't want your gas can close to your board when you're starting the engine. Put that chain in there. Alright, this thing has a cutoff valve for the fuel going to the carburetor. It has a choke valve. They're both right here. That way the gas is on. Want the choke on there. This is throttle. I want it all the way fast. And I know you can't see it, but over here on the side there's an on-off switch. Make sure you turn the switch on, or you can pull this thing all day long, it'll never fire. Couldn't tell you how many times I've done that. So make sure you turn the on-off switch to the on position, and at that point it should be ready to start. Now this is a real test. Like I said, this engine hasn't been started this year, and we're into October right now. So we'll see what happens. Alright, here we go. Okay, we stopped the video because it didn't want to start real easily. Like I said, this thing has been sitting since last fall, so I'm not real surprised. But anyway, we got it going. A little bit of ether and she fired right up. So there's one thing I did forget to show you, and before you start this thing, you should always check the hydraulic fluid in the reservoir. Now this tank down here between the tires, that's the reservoir for your hydraulic fluid. This cap unscrews. Just unscrew it. You just got a dipstick. It's got a max fill and a minimum level. Right now we're right close to the max fill, so we're good on our fluid. But always check that before you start. And we're going with another airplane. Like I said again, it's still a small airport. We're pretty busy today. Statesville Balloon Fest, which is a big event in our area, is going on today. That's probably why we got more aircraft coming and going than normal, because that's at the Statesville Airport, so they can't be taking airplanes off and on there with the balloons all around, so they're using the one near me. But anyway, I crank this up, I let it run a little bit, let it warm up. So now I'm going to crank it back up. Pardon me. And I'm going to move this back a little bit just to make it more convenient for me getting wood out of my truck and putting it in the log splitter. And I always cycle the cylinder a couple times before I start, just to get the fluid flowing, warm it up a little bit. And so I'll do that a couple times before I start. But that's what we're going to do now. We're going to split some firewood. Alright, here we go. now we've repositioned the camera a little bit to give you a different view so you can see the control and a little better how this is functioning, how I'm using it as I'm working the wood. And you'll notice that, and I mentioned this earlier, but when you pull the handle forward, the shaft or the cutter blade here will start moving forward. If you let go of it, it stops. And I'll demonstrate that as I'm showing you this. But when you push the handle back, this will keep going back until it gets all the way. But you can stop it midway if you want to. But if you just push the handle back, it'll stay there until it gets all the way back to the home position. All right, now I'm going to start this thing back up, and I'm going to let you see a demonstration of how this works a little bit more. Okay, and finishing up, I'd like to say I really do like this log splitter. When I purchased it, it's 22 ton. There's larger, more powerful log splitters on the market, and I was a little concerned when I bought it that, was it strong enough for what I needed to do? And I can tell you, there's nothing that I've had that I needed to split that this thing wouldn't split. I've had some logs, some oak that was way bigger than what it's rated for. And yeah, I couldn't split them right down the middle, but I took pieces off the sides and just worked my way around, and I still split them. So it has done everything that I needed it to do. I like the control, the ergonomics of it. It's where it needs to be for when you're working over here. One thing I don't like is there's an optional basket that you can get here. That should come standard, because when you're splitting wood and you're working on that side, the piece on this side, when it falls off, it could hit this, it could even hit your engine and cause problems there. It could bend pieces, damage pieces. This area needs to be better protected, and I'll probably fashion something myself to help do that as I move on. I just haven't done it yet. But that side tray, or whatever they call it, that goes right here to catch that side when you're splitting wood, would be an option that you should consider. I've towed this thing around my yard. I had it on the road except after I purchased it. It towed good. Had a little trouble getting the engine started this year, but a little ether, it fired up. But like I said, this thing's been sitting for a year down there off to the side of my yard with a tarp over it. If I sat down there under a tarp for a year, I probably wouldn't get up and run too good either. So I can't blame it, that has been a negative thing. But yeah, my camera lady's laughing at me now. But anyway, I do like this thing. I feel like it's a good value, and the fact that I could sell it on Craigslist basically for what I paid for it, that's always a plus. So my recommendation is, if you need a log splitter, this is a good one. There are certainly other ones out there. They're probably just as good, but I don't have those. I have this one, and I really like it. And so I'd just like to say, appreciate you visiting Do It Yourself with Wayne. Please subscribe to our channel and click like on our video if you find this helpful. And if you don't, let us know that in the comments. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think of our video. Tell us what kind of log splitter you got or what you're thinking about. If you're thinking of making a purchase of a log splitter and you got questions, put that in the comments. If I can answer your questions, I'd be more than happy to do that. And 2 more quick tips I want to give you before I leave. Always wear your gloves when you're handling this stuff. And another thing, after you've been running this thing for a while, this cylinder and the hoses, the lines for the hydraulic fluid, they get very hot. So if you put your hand on it, you're not going to likely get blisters, but you're gonna know right quick you don't want your hand there, because it does get very, very hot. So be aware of that. and just come back and watch more of our videos. Like I said, we got more videos coming up about firewood and firewood related things with our moving the wood around. So thank you for visiting. Well, I hope you have a great day.